Hey, y'all. Hey, here we come. Laura Merritt, you are on it. We appreciate you so much, girlfriend. Thank you. First person here. And we are live. It's our interview with our friend, the birthday boy, Hez Binkowitz, and we are going to be exploring all that he is because he's not just a perfume brand. He is also a nose. So coming to you right now, we've got a different setup. So hey Justin. Hey,
Hi,
Justin. There you go.
I'm
And hey,
here. Hi,
Jess.
everybody.
Hey everyone.
Look
So
at
good
that.
to
We
see
got a whole new format. Why? Because this is the next level. Do y'all know that this is officially today 6 months of us doing these interviews?
you. Yeah.
Yep. It's
It
exactly
doesn't. It seems
6 months.
like we did our first one with Jerry and yesterday.
I know, right? And I look back on them and they have evolved so much. It's like amazing to see. So I just did to add everyone. We're going to see where they are with getting on. And then, okay, we got a few people. So let's go. Let's bring on the man of the hour.
Let's do it.
Hey, Hess.
Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Hi.
Ez,
Thank you so much for having me. Hello.
thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
first, I need to apologize to our audience and let you know. Of course, this went much more smoothly today because everybody was where they were supposed to be. But we appreciate that we started like 5 minutes late on the Chris Collins interview. And believe me, they let us know. So, we're going to make sure that we are more on point and more professional because we don't want to get yelled at by our audience, okay? Not anymore. But also, it's always different when it's just your friends because this is Hez today and he's just our friend. We feel like we've been watching the journey forever. So we want you all to know where we started, where we are, and where we're going. So, Hez, I got to ask you, when did you first fall in love with perfume?
Oh, well, I think my very first love came at teenage years when I used to sneak into my dad's stash. My dad is a collector also, and he's been collecting since probably before I was born. Not to the scale that any of us are collecting now. Of course, this was back in the older days when there was mainly designers and things like that around. But
And there
yeah,
also just weren't that many bottles.
yeah, that's
It's
right.
hilarious. I look like even like let's say a Creed. If
Hmm.
Creed had a one release every year, they was doing something.
Oh yeah,
Now it's like every season a flanker. I didn't like, and it's like what is wrong with people? So
yeah,
the
yeah.
overconsumption
Oh
and the need,
yeah,
and also social media. There's
yep,
always something new. You see somebody talking about something else.
yep.
So, what was your dad's favorite fragrance? That one that you used to sneak in there and spray when you weren't supposed to?
Yeah. Oh, I that's a tough one. My dad didn't really have a signature scent. He was a little ahead of his time in that sense, in the fact that he rotated and he liked to switch things up. Um,
Oh yeah, he was
part.
definitely already a Renaissance man.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
back then, as Justin will tell you, that gray flannel went everywhere. It was for all occasions.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't really pinpoint exactly like what my dad's favorite scent was back then, but he's a fougere guy. Even to this day, it's mainly fougeres for him. Fougeres and chypres. He's not like it's funny because I make some sweeter, more playful fragrances, and it's the complete opposite of anything my dad would ever associate with. So
But if he was a
it's
collector, then he must appreciate it.
oh yeah, no, he really loves the fact that I do this. In fact, he was a big force behind pushing me, into it because I'm a technical person to begin with. Like when I get into hobbies or things like that, like I like to know everything I can learn about it, and that was true for perfume as well. Like I wasn't, um, content just spraying it on and saying, oh, that smells good. Like I needed to know exactly what was in it, how different techniques, how it could be made, things like that. So I was already had that mindset. And my dad, used to push me a lot about, well, if you're already interested in that, why don't you just try to do it? So, eventually it worked.
How
But
long
yeah,
ago did he try to start you on the path versus when you actually got on the path?
well, yeah, I think he kind of threw it out there a lot, but I I explore into a lot of different hobbies and technical stuff. So he usually pushes me no matter what I'm into to go further. That's just how he is. He likes to drive me to take it all the way. So I think that really when I started kind of pursuing perfuming is when he started pushing even harder. But anytime, it came up, I would talk about ingredients or things like that, my dad would always point out to me that I would be great at doing it if I just tried, and that's just the personality that he has. He's an artist also. My dad was a
Uh-huh.
photographer and a painter and a sculptor. So he's really in, hands on in things, and that's kind of how I was raised to be that way as well.
So
So
you
yeah,
were born to the creatives.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my mom was a sketch artist. She wasn't like well known for it, but she did it most of her life. Yeah. So I come by art in a natural sense. My all of my siblings are artists in different ways. My sister paints. My younger brother's a tattoo artist in Memphis. So just various things that we're all into.
Well, I'm going to jump ahead because it usually becomes a question later, and we're flowing now. So, my question to you, knowing that you're surrounded by all these creatives, do they have any impact, input? Do they work in any kind of way with your fragrances, like to design the box or to talk about your lettering or your font? Because I mean, that would seem
Yeah.
like really cool stuff.
Yeah, early in the beginning, my younger brother actually helped me out a lot with labels, and we created a bunch of different posters and stuff back then that were pretty cool. And he's pretty busy. We live in different cities, and he's pretty high demand tattoo artist. So it's hard to really get him involved on the operation at the scale we're at now. But in the beginning, when it was more of just, having fun and, let's make something together, there wasn't any, timelines or anything like that we had to deal with. He used to create all of my labels and everything for me. So yeah, it was a lot of fun back then. But now things are a little bit different just because, we always have things going on. He's got his own schedule in different cities. But mainly it's my wife that works with me, and um, yeah, she's involved with Hez Parfums. She's the creator of Muses, our fragrance Muses. She's involved with our packaging and designs and things like that. So she's more behind the scenes. Most people, don't see her on camera. If you come to any of the events that we attend, usually she does attend the events with me. Her name is Devora. And yeah, she's pretty heavily involved, but just behind the scenes mainly.
And I
Hey,
So
just
that's
want you all to
okay.
know that he had to
yeah,
make sure he told us that early because he's got to make up for the fact that he didn't tell us that in the beginning so that we can get the
yeah,
ball on here. Okay. He
yeah,
only mentioned it because I told him how much I really enjoyed Muses. So
yeah.
let's talk about that first collection.
Okay, yeah.
How did you
Yep.
get started? What were you
So,
thinking to do?
yeah. So when I first, you're asking me about my collection.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Your
Sorry, I
first
missed it.
collection. How'd
Yeah.
you
So
first get started?
when I first got into collecting fragrances, before I started making fragrances, I mean, it was mainly some things that I inherited from my dad, and then as a teenager, I was, building up cheaper fragrances. This was before really, niche fragrances were big on the scene, and definitely before, dupes or Middle Eastern things or anything like that. Like the real options back then were, designers for the most part, and you had cheaper designers and more expensive designers. And I was all about the cheaper designers. In my teenage years, I had, all of the Nautica Voyage and all these different.
Favorite teenage fragrance. Come on,
Yeah.
we need to know what the young head
Yeah, it
know.
was definitely Nautica Voyage back in the day. I was into that, that fresh. I can't really wear it now. I don't know. Maybe it's a scent memory thing, or I don't know what it is. I just can't put it on now. But back then, I wore that fragrance out in my high school years, and then I moved on to Acqua di Gio, and that vibe throughout my early 20s, I guess, or late teenage years, early 20s. And I got into niche fragrances towards the late 2000s, I think. Or that's when it really kind of like hit my radar that there was these like higher end fragrances that were a little bit more exclusive, and I was starting to learn about some of the brands then that you didn't really find at just regular stores. And I got into that for a while, and then that was just really a launching point because I spent a little bit of time with niche, but I had a launching point right into indie, which was a world that I had no idea even existed. until just found myself in it around a bunch of people. And like a lot of people, like I started getting involved with fragrance groups, early on, different groups, like local groups and things like that. And people would, come up with these fragrances and these funky looking bottles. Like back then, most indie brands did not have nice bottles. Like indie bottles back then were just stock bottles that you would get. It wasn't all about the presentation. It was mainly just about the uniqueness of the juice and the fact that somebody was pushing boundaries. Making perfume. So to be honest with you, we actually liked kind of ugly looking packaging because there was something to it that like showed that it was handmade, by somebody. So at that time, it was like kind of cool if you got something with like a cheap paper label or whatever else, because it just showed that it wasn't mainstream. But when I got into that, I started meeting different people that were, into indie perfume and natural perfume. I really didn't understand at the time, about aroma chemicals versus natural perfume and things like that. I just knew that I like fragrances, didn't really think too much about, chemicals versus natural oils. I wanted to know what was in everything, but I didn't understand exactly the differences between, all the materials that are used for it. So when I got into indie, I started learning about, natural oils and how perfume used to be made before, the advancements in chemicals and things like that. And I just found it incredibly fascinating. And when I started exploring that world, I realized that this is like a totally different type of, when you have like all natural perfume, like really high level, ingredients and things like that. It's a totally different experience. It's like going to an art gallery versus going to a movie theater. That's kind of how it felt to me, so I just really enjoyed that, even though those fragrances for the most part weren't as mass appealing or, versatile. There was just so much to them, so much uniqueness and art really. So, with coming from, an artistic family and everything else, I just found that incredibly fascinating. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into indie, and I really never left. I've been an indie
It's
guy
always
ever since.
hilarious that, in the fragrance community, we talk so much about the mass appealing versus the uniqueness. And everybody goes, oh, am I getting compliments? So we always hear about compliments.
Yeah,
And for me, it's not always that I want compliments. I want people to ask me about my fragrance so I can tell them about it. I want
yeah,
to talk about the journey. I want to talk about,
exactly.
why I chose it, how it makes me feel. And that's kind of
Hmm.
how I describe them. And
Yeah.
so with your fragrance that has a uniquely New Orleans vibe to them, it transports me. So I got my package from you
Oh,
3 days before I left for my latest jaunt to New Orleans. And I was there for like 2 weeks. And so I went to Jackson Square. I had some beignets, and it was interesting to experience the fragrances in that environment.
oh yeah, that's great.
So how is it that you got like a whole New Orleans brand and you down there in Texas?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a great question. So New Orleans is my home, and I say it's my home. I wasn't born in New Orleans actually. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but I moved around a lot as a kid, and then we settled in New Orleans when I was pretty young. So I grew up there, and most of my development, I guess you could say, was there. I started my family there. My kids, were born there. So it really is a home, even though I wasn't born there necessarily. It's what I know the most. And I had no intentions of leaving New Orleans. I was perfectly happy there. In 2019, we are, well, let me take a step back. In 2018, my youngest children were born. We have twins. And, sadly, one of the twins was born with severe health issues. So we stayed in New Orleans for a few months. She was in the neonatal intensive care unit there for like 6 months. And then things kind of got sketchy. So they recommended that we go to a bigger hospital, which is in Houston. They have the big medical center here, and the children's hospital. So we moved here, for her medical care, and we've been here ever since. And not to bring the conversation down, but in 2020 she lost the battle, and we are here. So with that, it's been hard to leave here. We just kind of stayed here.
Mhm.
Um, But again, I don't mean to bring the conversation down, but
It's
that's how we ended
not,
up
baby. You
here in
sharing your
Houston.
real life journey.
Yeah.
Because I bet you that the Indian journey, for you, did that help you to decide to go ahead and launch or work harder on your fragrance brand?
Yeah, that was actually really the pivot point where it became serious for me because and it wasn't serious in the sense of I need to start a business serious. I really that came a little later on. It was serious in the sense that I needed something in that moment that was positive, that was
Mhm.
within my control, something that I could do in my home, just a distraction from, things that were happening at the time. So I went all in. And I also received, like, I had a lot of friends that supported in the fragrance community. Some of them were perfumers, and are perfumers still. And, it was like, I, I don't know how else to say this, but I didn't know how to talk to people during that time, that difficult time, without, like too much information about what was going on with me personally. But perfume was something that I could just talk about without getting into
Mhm.
all that stuff. So I found a lot of my time, like, trying to focus on that, not to, tell everybody what was really happening. And, in that, some people kind of pick up that you're going through some stuff. And I just found a lot of support in the fragrance community. So I don't know, it like came together in a very natural way that I started, perfuming more seriously, almost as a therapy. And then, the people that were around me, other perfumers, kind of seen what I was going through. They seen what I was doing, to deal with that situation. And I think they were just like, really supportive and helping me. And they wanted to see me, do things and because they knew it was helping me. So that was really like where I became completely dedicated to perfuming. That's where all this, start. I stopped buying bottles. Like I used to, collect fragrances just like most of us here, I had
Mhm.
the huge collection. And at that point, I just kind of gave up on buying bottles and started focusing on buying oils. I wanted to make everything.
So what
So
you're telling me is that you found the real community in the
I did.
fragrance community, and that's
I did.
beautiful.
I
That's
did.
beautiful.
Yeah, I did. Absolutely. And, some of the people that, showed up for me, they're like family. At the time, I was almost not a stranger, but, I'm just somebody in the community. But yeah, some of those people really showed up for me during that time, and I still talk to them, and I still consider
And they
them all
probably
dear
still
friends.
promote you. So
Oh
that may
yeah,
be
absolutely,
some of how we found you or you found
absolutely,
us.
absolutely. Yeah, I
So
mean,
tell
I
us
could tell
about
you,
that
like,
first fragrance that you actually like took out of your house and said, I want to share this with somebody. I think this is
yeah,
something I want to share.
yeah, it's a great question. So the first one was Bourbon Street, and this is what Bourbon Street looks like now. But this is not what it looked like when I released it. I wish I had one of the original bottles. I don't have any anymore. This is actually
Why
the
do
fourth.
I have to tell all of y'all to keep your stuff? Like
Yeah,
literally every
I
time
know.
we have one of these interviews, we got Chris Collins who's like, it was the I'm like, why you don't have that? And
Yeah.
we had Mike Blakely and
Oh yeah.
Mikey on here, Blaylock. And he's like, yeah, I'm like, why are y'all not keep this is you supposed to have a museum of your
I
perfume.
know. I know. You never think about it in a moment like this may be important down the line. You get so caught up on I'm about to upgrade. I don't need this anymore, so then it's like by the time you realize you're like, I wish I still had that bottle now.
That would be your limited edition.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean
Was it one
it
of those
was
ugly bottles that you said that made people
it,
feel like they were
oh
special?
yeah. Oh yeah, it was
Everybody
pretty
loves throwback.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was pretty ugly. I mean, I got the bottle from Amazon, and at the time, that's how I started. I was buying bottles from Amazon and printing out my own labels just on the regular printer, cutting them with scissors and everything. They were probably a little bit lopsided. Yeah, it was. I used to get boxes that were like craft boxes because I couldn't find boxes to put them in. So I just got that and like wrapping paper and made a little presentation. The box was like 10 times too big for the bottle, but I did the best I could. And I really didn't expect much. I mean, when I first, launched it, I mean, I was really like just for people that I knew, kind of, that's what I expected. Like some friends would buy it out of curiosity and see what would happen. And I sold it to a few people, and it wasn't really like a big thing. And one day I was on YouTube, and all of a sudden I see a video that says Bourbon Street on it or whatever, and I was like, surely that can't be my Bourbon Street. You know what I mean? Like, did somebody else make a fragrance called Bourbon Street? And they actually somehow, it wasn't even the person that bought it from me, it was somebody else. Somehow they got the bottle and they reviewed it. And I was like in shock. I couldn't believe it. And it was a good review too. It wasn't a bad one. So I was like really beside myself. I couldn't believe that that happened. And then, after
Do you
that,
know who the YouTuber was? Did you save the video?
I did. It's actually Oda Erica.
Okay, just making sure because I feel like I
Yeah.
need to tell y'all to do everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to Oda Erica. I never met her or even knew who she was at the time. I somebody sent it to her on my behalf, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, she made the video, and I got a few messages and stuff. It wasn't like I just blew up overnight or anything like that, but it was enough to make me feel like I had something to offer more than just to a few friends, in the group. And yeah, I mean, I started getting a little bit after that. I got a little bit brave, and I didn't realize about the whole thing, with reaching out to reviewers, how that works or anything like that, because I wasn't a brand at the time. I just had this one fragrance that I was trying to get somebody to sniff. So I just started randomly sending out bottles to certain people and seeing what they would do. And I was surprised that actually people were reviewing it and it was picking up speed. And eventually I had, not a business, but I had enough of, demand that I was able to keep it going, and enough so that it encouraged me to make a second fragrance and a third, and, continue pushing forward. But yeah, it was really unexpected, the response in the beginning. I was expecting a very small, maybe 4 or 5 people to buy it, give me some criticism, and then, after that, maybe never talk about it again, But here we
What's
are,
the
and
idea? What's the scent story
hmm
behind Bourbon Street? Since that was the first one,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was the
it's great.
labor of
So
love.
yeah, so this is actually tied into the situation that I was dealing with at the time, with my daughter and being in Houston, because I was making like random fragrances, just different things that I was toying with. They had like funny names, whatever. But in that moment, I wanted to kind of lock in on something that like really meant something to me, and I was so homesick, being away from New Orleans, that I thought it would be cool to do something, that kind of honored New Orleans or where I'm from, something that tied into that. So I was thinking about all these different things. I actually was going to name it Jackson Square at first, because Jackson Square is a place that I spend a lot of time, being involved in the art scene and stuff like that. Jackson Square is a big place for me personally. But, Bourbon Street is the most iconic or well known place of New Orleans for people that aren't necessarily from there. I also spend a tremendous amount of time, don't want to admit all the things that's happened on Bourbon Street. So yeah, I mean, I
I
do
mean,
have a
come on now.
personal,
So let's think
yeah,
about it. Okay, it's
yeah,
Bourbon Street. Okay,
it's Bourbon Street.
we are we're in turmoil, right?
Hmm.
So we're drinking.
Oh yeah,
We're trying to be distracted, so we're partying. There's the music scene, the jazz
yeah,
scene is going on. There's a first line
hmm,
is going down the street every other minute. You
oh
know,
yeah,
it's not the cleanest place.
yeah,
There's a
exactly.
definite air to it.
A little
There's a
funkiness.
definite grit
Oh
and an
yeah,
air to it.
yeah,
There's we got animals running everywhere that ain't supposed to be there, but
yeah,
it's still
horses.
super sexy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's what this is like. I didn't want it to be, the true funk from from Bourbon Street. We all know it. If you're there past midnight, you're gonna pick it up. But what I was thinking was, what I was thinking was more like, you know, the party, the booze, the tobacco, the food, the spices, just that vibe, that jazz type vibe. And it's not the cleanest fragrance, but it's like because of the spice and a little bit of the grit that's in the base. But I wanted it to be fun more than anything. It was fun and inviting and lively. That was kind of the main purpose of Bourbon Street. I wanted to represent that, that that spice that happens there in the French Quarter, that excitement.
Well,
So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say your boys are here, C-Mac and Dwayne, and Dwayne's
Oh, hey
Dwayne's like,
guys.
whatever happens on Bourbon Street stays on Bourbon Street. You don't have to go
Yeah,
too far.
Is my
exactly.
camera still? Can you guys
No,
still hear me? I think my camera
I
froze.
can hear you, but you're frozen.
yeah, you are
All
frozen.
right, let me switch my camera over here.
Yeah.
I'll take you out and bring you back in. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, definitely what happens on Bourbon Street stays on Bourbon Street. There's plenty of stories to go around, but
Well, let me tell you about the last time that I went. Before this time, but the last time before the pandemic. And my mother had just passed.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And there was this woman that she was like everywhere I was. And I had to let people know that that was not me. That was Daniela Pattersona. Because I don't know where this woman, and I mean, she was dancing on tables. She was out here doing a whole Tina Turner impression. I was like, this lady need to learn how to act. And it's bad because people was going to think it was me. It was
Oh yeah.
horrible. It was horrible. But it
Yep.
was it was okay because I had people with me that knew that was not me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we used to go there. We would go to Pat O'Brien's. And by the time you left there, everything else was just kind of a blur. But
Well, they want to know some more about um the other New Orleans landmarks. We talk about Jackson Street and we're going to get there.
mm,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Jackson Square, excuse me, the creative hub really.
Hmm.
And but we've got some cafe and beignets. Like I want to know what banana bread got to do with New
Oh
Orleans.
yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
is it
Absolutely.
is it a whole New Orleans collection or is it
It
just
it
what
yeah.
your memories?
It's a little bit of both actually. So like most of my fragrances are lean, some way themed off of New Orleans. But we do have a few that aren't. Banana Bread Banshee is a little bit more personal to me. That's mainly themed after my mother and experiences that we had in the home. And so that's a little bit more personal, not necessarily New Orleans related, but my mom was a very New Orleans ish lady. So what banana bread is kind of a boozy banana bread. It's not like the traditional banana bread that you would get from just anywhere, but kind of what you would find in New Orleans with like a rum sauce and a little bit more decadent in
So
that
like
sense.
giving it like a praline vibe,
Exactly. Yeah.
adding that
Yeah.
sweet, heavy, liquor caramel to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, like the style in New Orleans, we like to put sauce and stuff on everything. So, it's like, if it's like banana bread, you're going to get some rum sauce. It's going to be a little bit more than just bread, sliced banana bread. So yeah, that's what it is. But the rest of the line is really New Orleans themed. So, you could almost take a tour of New Orleans. If you're familiar with New Orleans, you'll see a lot of the French Quarter influence within my line. So, we have, Bourbon Street obviously is, the heart of the French Quarter. But then Jackson Square, if you're familiar with, New Orleans, you know that Jackson Square isn't too far away from Bourbon Street. And Jackson Square is basically, if you're not familiar with Jackson Square, if you see any of the posters or pictures of New Orleans, there's that big iconic church, right? I'm sure you all familiar with that big white church. It's called the St. Louis Cathedral,
Hmm.
and it's probably the most iconic church, I guess, at the scene in New Orleans. But right in front of that church, there's a square park, and that square park is Jackson Square. That's what we mean by Jackson Square. So the history of that is back in the old days, like it used to be like a military compound kind of thing, like a army base, and it wasn't the best place to be. Like that square is where they carried out executions and things like that in the city. But the way that it used to be was like people would go to church at that St. Louis Cathedral, and then when they came out of church on like Sundays or whatever, they would hang out in that square in front of the church. And then, of course, they did, punishments and things like that there at the time. At a certain point in history, when they closed the base and, removed that from the city square the way that they were doing it, and they moved it into wherever, the jail or wherever. They just had this big open area that was more or less just a congregation ground. Like people would leave the church and hang out there, but it was more or less just an empty area. So there's a lady that was an architect. She wanted to redesign the entire square and make it beautiful and make it something worth spending time in and make a park there. So they built these apartments that go across, down the side.
Mhm.
When you're there and you see those buildings, all the shops at the bottom, those are actually historic apartments at the top. They're the oldest apartments in New Orleans
So
now.
I didn't know that.
Hmm.
I actually asked that where the actual living quarters stood.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah, and they weren't there, before. They built it during this time when they when they made the park more beautiful and made it into an actual park. They built that, and then they squared in the park, with fencing, and they put memorial. They have that statue there, which is a little controversial, and then they have other things like plants and things like that.
Yeah, because
But it just
I'll tell you, the 3 times I've been there, the pictures that were taken, but were not very they not fit for prime time. I've seen people
yeah.
in the statue. I've seen the middle finger to the
Oh
statue.
yeah, yeah. The
I've
statue
seen
gets a lot
people
of attention.
I've seen people
Yeah,
urinate on this statue.
yeah,
It goes
yeah.
down on this here statue. Okay.
Yeah, and the statue, of course, is Andrew Jackson. That's why it's called that Jackson Square. Right across the street from Jackson Square. So just kind of give you the visual. So you have Jackson Square. You have the church behind it. There's the street, and then right across the street is Cafe Du Monde, and
Hmm.
they have like an area where people do like breakdancing and all kinds of crazy stuff are happening over there. And that's kind of the starting point for the French market. So like when you cross the street from Jackson Square, you have Cafe Du Monde, and then everything down that way is the French Market. So that's really what these fragrances are basically different aspects of the French Quarter. So we have Bourbon Street,
So
Jackson
wait a minute.
Square,
So Jackson Square, because now this is the one that I liked.
yeah,
So Jackson Square and the plum, that word I can't say.
yeah,
That
Plum
word.
Confecture,
Conficture.
yep,
Thank you. But for the people out there, I need y'all to know that it's amazing that I love this fragrance because it is another cannabis scent.
yep, yep, it is. Yeah, and I
Um,
think the cannabis is not like super funky, but it's definitely there. Yeah, and
and
if
I
you,
get it more interesting for me. Like, I don't get it at the top. I mean, because it's supposed to be a middle note, but I don't get
yeah,
it there. I get it like blending into like the musk when it's close to the
hmm,
skin. That's where I get it on the
yeah,
absolute dry down. And you're like,
yeah.
wait a minute, was somebody smoking?
You're like, oh, it was me.
Are you
Yeah.
guilty of that, Hez? Did you partake
No.
in Jackson Square?
Maybe back in my youth, I spent a lot of time out there.
So
So
can you tell
yeah,
us about Blue Dog? Because I know some people want to talk.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh, so
yeah.
everybody's apparently Blue Dog is a legend. So we
Oh
got to
yeah.
tell about the legend of Blue Dog.
Yeah, and it's funny because Blue Dog really is a legend. It's based off of a legend. So the history, like Blue Dog, I get all kinds of questions about Blue Dog. People ask me, is it themed off of my dog, which I actually have a golden retriever, so it would be Gold Dog if that was the case. But no, Blue Dog is actually a New Orleans legend. So it starts off the history of the Blue Dog is like Blue Dog itself is a painting. The painting is by the artist George Rodrigue, and he painted a series of these blue dog paintings that were very like vivid colors, and it's like a kind of a funky looking dog with like two different color eyes, and the background scene is always like some New Orleans themed background. There's usually a bottle of like booze next to the dog somewhere. So it's the whole thing is pretty interesting, very New Orleans style art. And what it is basically George Rodrigue was he's from New Orleans area. I mean, I think he moved to California, moved around different places, but what he was doing was he was famous prior to the Blue Dog for painting New Orleans themed stuff, but not the Blue Dog, just New Orleans, depictions. The blue dog was his version of the theme of the legend of what's called the Rougarou. And the Rougarou is a famous, like, you know, mythical legend in New Orleans. It actually started from Native Americans, and then it passed on. It became well known within New Orleans culture. Like, it's been there forever. If you ever go to New Orleans and you visit the zoo, they actually have an exhibit of the Rougarou. It's like this fake looking monster thing that comes out. So what it is a
Now I
Rougarou.
thought the Rougarou was like Scooby Doo talking. Like I really thought that's what he was saying. Like
Yeah,
Rougarou, like
yeah,
Oh,
Rougarou,
okay.
yeah,
So it's actually
yeah. Yeah, it's actually, it's funny because, in New Orleans we call it the Rougarou. In French they call it the Loup-garou. But it's basically the same thing. What it is it's a werewolf. That's essentially what it is. But the idea behind it is it's like a man who, obviously this is all themed in New Orleans. That's kind of like the theme. But the man, he transforms in different versions of the story. Like sometimes he transforms because he was contacted, like somebody gets it, like a virus kind of thing, and then they can give it to you, and then you can catch it. In other stories, it's something that happens when somebody gets drunk. So it's almost more symbolic about, how somebody's personality changes whenever they start drinking and things like that, which is kind of more what it's leaned towards now in more modern times. But back in the old days, they would tell kids, these stories to keep them from getting in trouble and different stuff like that. But it really is just a werewolf. It's basically a man who transforms into this wolf-like beast, and he goes out into the swamplands and kind of causes chaos. So that was, the origin of it was a little bit scary, a little bit, rough. But what George Rodriguez did was he depicted it in a very unique way. Basically, what he did was he depicted the blue dog, or the Rougarou. He called it the blue dog, as his own personal dog, which happened to be a female dog named something really silly. I can't remember what her name was, like Princess or something. I don't remember what it was, but she was one of those Louisiana. I forget what they're called. There's a dog basically where that um, comes from Louisiana. They have two different color eyes, and I think there's some kind of maybe shepherd or something like that. So he used her as like his inspiration for depicting the blue dog. And for a while it was just a painting. It wasn't anything too extreme. But when it became really important, I guess, to most people in New Orleans, was after Hurricane Katrina. So after Hurricane Katrina, the city was completely destroyed, and not a whole lot of what it used to be was left anymore. I mean, it was just like it looked like a war zone. And when they started rebuilding the city, you can rebuild the city, but you can never go back to exactly what it was. Like it changes after a situation like that. So, with that, I mean, people started recognizing the blue dog as like the image that represented the rebirth or the transformation of the city after it went through such a difficult, situation with Katrina. And blue dog started becoming more like symbolic, really, of the rebirth. So you started seeing like they would put up like, blue dog, statues and things like that. And it really took on a meaning. So with my fragrance, that was kind of what I was channeling into. Was I wanted a fragrance. First of all, I'm a big fan of George Rodriguez. I think that his art is amazing. If anybody isn't familiar with it, I highly encourage you to Google it. Just the blue dog paintings. You'll see they're really beautiful and interesting. But I love that idea. I love what he did, like his abstract vision of the Rougarou and how, what it meant to him personally, in the paintings were so different from the original mythology, but it was still part of it. And it was in his own image. It was a little bit more innocent, a little bit more fun with the dog. And I wanted to do something like that in a fragrance form. I wanted something that represented New Orleans just like the blue dog does, in the transformation. I wanted the fragrance to also kind of behave like the story. I wanted it to transform in some way, to start off as one thing and then, kind of change into something totally different. So that was really the goal, was to make something like that. Was, I wanted something that started off kind of like, not sophisticated, but something that was a little bit more mass appealing, easy to approach, something like a regular guy that you would meet on the street. And then I wanted it to kind of transition into something a little bit more rough and rugged, towards the middle, like the dog. And then I wanted it to smooth back out towards the end where it kind of transitions into, an easier fragrance. So the whole thing is really meant to kind of change as you're wearing it. And that's really what's happening. It's like citrus, bright opening. And then you get into kind of like a fougere-ish type mid with, some smokiness and some, incense and things like that. And then as it dries down, it's brought back into the lighter mode with the white musk and the blonde woods and things like that. So yeah, that's really what it is.
I would say that you did very well at portraying that through fragrance.
Yeah,
Um, I mean,
yeah.
I really like the way that it mellows out from that sharp opening
Hmm.
when you wear it, and I think that I would say, and I don't mean it in any kind of disrespect. I think it is the most mass appealing fragrance that I've smelled of yours,
Yeah,
because there's a level of complexity in the other notes that you use in the other fragrances that I don't think that a novice would necessarily appreciate.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Blue
Well, I
Dog
don't even
is.
think it's that. What I think is it is reminiscent of what we know of fragrance when it
Hmm.
opens.
Yeah.
It's very, cool water cologne, mass
Hmm.
appealing, right? At
Yeah,
the open. The complexity comes at a point after that they've already worn the fragrance. It's already on.
yeah,
Like it made
yeah.
like honestly, this is the one for me versus everything else. Maybe not the gourmands because
Hmm.
you actually, and I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna get to this because Danielle is not a gourmand girly, and I mean traditional gourmand. Like I
Yeah,
don't want to smell like cake. It's just not what I want to smell like. I want it sometimes to enhance the mood, but your
yeah.
gourmands are actually really, really good,
Thank
Your
you.
and we're
gourmands
going
are
to talk about
fantastic.
that.
Thank you
I'm
very
sorry.
much. Yeah, thank you.
But in this one, like you get those notes that are familiar to people are all up front, and that's what smacks you. So
Yeah,
I think that somebody will be more comfortable. I think by the time it gets complex, they don't even realize that it happened.
yeah, yeah. It eases into it. So yeah, they're already hours in. They're ready to accept it. It's not
Yes,
something
it's
that.
not like I'm
Yeah,
gonna go get a shower. Like what's going on?
yeah, yeah.
Like
Yep.
what is
Exactly.
this? Is that me?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the two easiest ones in the entire line is going to be Blue Dog and Muses.
Hmm.
Those are really for the most part easy reaches. You're not going to offend too many people with either one of them. Um,
Muse
but yeah,
is the one that I think is your layering fragrance.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that's the
So
one that I can make into anything I want it to be.
oh yeah, yeah. Muses is really a bright citrus floral, and it's meant to be clean. And it's meant for hot weather, really. So yeah, it's definitely good for layering because you can do a lot with it. It's
But I mean, who don't love orange blossom and hibiscus? Come on now.
yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Katie, we're going to get to the gourmands. We're going to have some time with that, but I just want to go back. Stacy wanted to know, is there anything going on in Texas right now that has you inspired and keeps you creative in your own
Oh,
area right now?
oh yeah, absolutely. I'm actually, I'm very fortunate and blessed to have ended up here of all places because when it comes to fragrances, the community in Houston is tremendous. I mean, we have a huge fragrance community here, like massive. I'm we have a group, a local Facebook group that we interact with, and a few months ago they put together like a meetup, and
Yeah,
it was
I was jealous. I'm like, wait a minute,
yeah.
I want to be there.
Yeah, and I had actually I was traveling. I went to another event. I forget
Yeah,
which
as a
one it
matter of
was.
fact, I recall they weren't even sure if you were gonna make it. Like, cause
Yeah,
a lot was going
exactly.
on.
It
Yeah, I
was
remember
very
that.
last minute, and I was expecting like to walk in with like 10 or 15 people just hanging out, which was cool. I was ready for that. When I went in there, I was like completely overwhelmed. It was like 50, 60 people already there before the thing even started. Really, it was just crazy crowded. And Niles ended up showing up, City Rhythm. We had a good time. Yeah, it was just a lot of really cool people. And I think Houston is just an amazing community. They're very involved with each other. So to your question about inspiration, it's funny that you mentioned it because, interacting with the group and some of these amazing people, I realized that there's not really like a whole lot of fragrances that have been made for Houston. I do this for New Orleans and I'm living in Houston. And it's kind of like, you know, a little bit sad that I haven't done it for Houston itself either. But
I asked Niles the same thing. I'm like,
yeah,
sir,
yeah, yeah. We have like the best people here. We need a fragrance to represent them, So like, anyways, so we started doing this thing in the group, and you'll see this fragrance come soon. But basically, we did what's called the vote the note. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to do like, a lot of brands they like collaborate with a single person, an influencer, or whoever, to make a fragrance. I wanted to do something a little bit different, and it was a little bit of a challenge actually. But I basically put it to the entire group to vote on the notes that would go into the Houston fragrance that they wanted. So, we started off with basically a poll of what type of fragrance do you want to have? And everybody voted on that. And then we went through, top notes. What do you want the top notes to be? And just had everybody put in recommendations, vote on it. We did that for every layer of the fragrance. We did it for the concentration, the name of the fragrance, the entire thing, basically. So it's the group that's building the fragrance. I'm just kind of the hands, involved in the nose and the hands. And now we're at the stage where, we're actually testing this fragrance. So, we've been passing around samples to people in the group and they're giving feedback. And, I mean, it's not finished yet, but it's definitely becoming something quite nice. And it's amazing just to see, how involved people are and how much, they think about this, what they would actually like to have in their fragrance. So I think that's amazing. I'm really enjoying that project. And then we
Did
also we started doing classes here locally. So I started offering perfuming classes. We do it once every couple of months, and just different places. We'll meet at like a hotel or something like that. And basically, we pick a subject. Last time we did like citrus fresh fragrances, and I provide everybody with a kit, with different oils to work with, and a handout with all the different formulas and things that they can do. And we spend like 4 hours in a room together and just create stuff. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, I think Houston, I'm just like I said, it's a great community here, and I'm being homesick, for New Orleans. It's just a blessing to have a community that accepts me so much here. So that helps a lot. So yeah, anybody that's watching from Houston, big shout out.
I
oh,
know you
believe
feel
me,
well,
they're all
very
telling us how wonderful you are
Oh,
out
thank
there in
you.
Houston, how involved you are, and how lucky that they are to have you. They are
Yeah.
on there also. That's who's on YouTube as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Like I
did
can see the
you did
demographic
you
of where they
release
are.
the poll winners for the vote to note? Do we know
Yeah. Yeah.
what
It's
the
a it's
notes
a
are?
big it's a big list of notes. I'll have to find
You
them.
about
And
the Lorenzo Pizzaglias? The
yeah, it's
Pizzaglias?
a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's gonna be
It's a lot.
27 notes.
It's more than that. I can tell you. They went hard, and it's fun because I always make fragrances. I mean, we all make fragrances that are a little bit selfish. We pick the notes, we pick the stuff. We know what we want, and we hope that other people want it. We put it out there that way. This is interesting because I'm not allowing myself any control over. It's up to the group. That's basically what the standard that I set, and I like it because this is like a real test. This is like a challenge. This is like you give me the notes, no matter how random or wild that they are, and I'll just have to figure out how to make them work. And that's what we're doing. But
Well,
it's great.
having said
test
this, because
code.
I always have to put in my own plug, because I have this really random, like,
More civet. More civet.
I'm
More
just saying, I
cinnamon.
have this really random, thing that I want some champagne and some saffron,
Oh yeah.
and I need some white musk and
Oh
some kind of berries and
yeah.
patchouli. That's what I need.
Okay.
I need
Yeah.
one of y'all to get this together. So if I ask every perfumer that comes on here, I forgot to ask Chris. I forgot that, but you know what? I'm not Nia Long, so Chris probably not going to do that for me. But I'm I'm going to ask you to.
Yeah. What kind
Where
of
are y'all
berries?
champagne fragrances? I don't
Oh
understand
yeah.
why everybody don't want to. Like, come on, now, who don't want something flirty
Yeah.
and bubbly and fun like me?
You're right. Yeah, champagne is nice. It is nice. No,
Well, maybe
yeah.
you can add that to your list of enhancers, and
Oh yeah,
then
Oh,
she can add
champagne.
champagne to whatever she wants.
I
yeah.
would buy it.
That would be
I
a
would,
nice enhancer.
I would buy that. I would
Yeah,
buy that. I would buy
yeah.
that.
That would be a nice one. You could probably do a lot with that.
So,
So,
sir, also something a little bit unique about you, versus our other guests, is that not only are you the nose for Hez, I understand we work with some other brands as well.
Yeah, yeah. Sure do. Yeah, I recently created a fragrance for Tempest Vitae. They're located also in Texas, a little further out near Dallas, closer to Dallas area. But that fragrance is called High Tea, and it's inspired by like a British like tea party essentially. So I'm really proud of that one. It was
Wait a
released.
minute. You got some Bridgerton theme fragrance. Like you need to. I mean, can I like I'm a like be Bridgerton, Lady Bridgerton. I'm like I'm just actually I want to be Lady Daphne. Like I can be Lady Danbury. So like you gonna make me smell like Lady Danbury because
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying you could market this to the Bridgerton balls.
yeah, yeah. No, it's great. I mean, I think I'm really proud of High Tea. I think that's one of my great achievements as a perfumer. I hope everyone has a chance to try it. People ask me, "Don't you wish you would have made that for your own house?" And it's like, no, it's actually not the case. I'm really happy to make something that stands out for another house. I think that's almost even a little bit better in a sense because it shows that I'm not just in my own world over here. I can do things more than just my own vision, my own ideas. But if somebody, wants me to do something for them and that I can meet that vision and, in a real way. So that was my first opportunity to really do it for another house. And, I'm just really proud of it. I'm also really grateful to, Tim Hooks, who's the owner of Tempest Vitae, for giving me the opportunity as a newer perfumer, not as well known, to give me the opportunity to make something for him. But yeah, we've been getting great feedback, so I think he's happy with it. I know I'm happy with it.
Did
Okay,
he come
Quentin
to
Beach
you
out
with
here.
the
Okay,
idea,
okay.
Yeah.
or did he say, we want to work with you and you have carte blanche?
No, so yeah, he actually had the vision before he approached me. He's big. He's already a big tea enthusiast, but he had went on a vacation, him and his wife. I forget where all they went, but they went to some tea fields or wherever they visited some places that really kind of inspired him on having a tea fragrance. So when he came back from that vacation, he already had this vision in mind, and I think it was just a matter of picking the right perfumer to carry it out. And I know Tim. I've known him for a little while before he approached me on the fragrance, so it wasn't just like a stranger coming to me. But I was really honored because he's worked with other great perfumers. He's currently working with other great perfumers like Michael Salazar. I'm sure you're familiar with Michael, another great guy. Um, and Kyle from OSM. Can't remember Kyle's last name. The brand OSM. Um, these are great perfumers, well-known perfumers, and then there's me. So I was really honored that he gave me that opportunity. But
I'm saying Quentin Beach had to start somewhere. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
exactly. Everybody's got to start somewhere. Yeah, and I think it was a great start. So I'm working with another house now, a new house. I can't say who it is just yet because I'm waiting for them to be the first to announce it. It's going to be a surprise. But you are very familiar with the house. I think you'll all be excited to see which house and who it is and what type of fragrance it is.
Well, you do
But
know we love to support our family, so you
oh
gotta
yeah,
as soon as you can let us know. You gotta let us know.
I absolutely will. Yeah, I'm dying on the inside to just spill the beans, but yeah, I got to let him do it. But
Oh,
no,
Is
it's
this a
it's
clue
startup?
one, clue
it's
one. You gotta let
it's
him.
not.
You gotta let him tell us.
Yeah, it's not really a startup, um, but you'll see. Can't say too much. Yeah,
A,
it's not a startup.
a newer established brand that we would
Yeah,
recognize.
newer. Yeah, not brand new,
Hmm.
but newer. Yep,
Okay.
but a
I got
great.
some guesses, but we ain't gonna spend time on that
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's like 20 clues. You're in
yeah.
Houston.
My
Newer brand that's established. We would
I have
know.
the worst
I don't
poker
know. I'm gonna just
face,
I'm gonna
so
just
if
ask.
you say the name, I'm just gonna have to bail out of here to avoid.
Now, is this another instance where they had the idea and they want you to create and implement it, or did they say like we want to work with you, and we want to hear what your feedback is, we want you to come up with something new?
This was, well, it was a little bit different. Like the first fragrance with the tea fragrance, that was pretty, well ironed out idea before it even came to me. So, you know, as far as like picking the notes and things like that, I was involved with that part of it, but it was to meet a vision that was already there. With this fragrance that, and it's already actually complete, this new fragrance, it just hasn't been released yet. It's bottled and everything, ready to go. But with this fragrance, there was more of like a higher level idea, like not as ironed out exactly, just kind of a general, idea. And then there was a lot of freedom, a lot more freedom to kind of express, do what I wanted to do. Not that I didn't have freedom to do it with the first fragrance, but because it was such a very specific, vision in mind, I didn't want to play around too much away from that. But with this one, it was a little bit more high level. And then, the owner of the house was just really interested in allowing me to, kind of test the waters. So I've made some various, mods or different versions of it with completely different characteristics. And, we really toyed around with it. And we actually have some ideas for some future fragrances based off of that. So it was really a great exercise, but what we came up with, I think, is really going to impress some people. So I'm excited to hear, to release that information. It's going to come through their house, but once they give me permission, I'll start talking about it too.
Well, we're all excited about that too. We can't wait to see what it is.
Oh yeah,
You're keeping everybody in suspense now.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a time frame of release. Can we at least know that?
It'll be most likely October.
Okay, so fall.
Yep.
Holiday releases, huh?
I can't take too much.
So
let's go on to the gourmand. We won't, because we will be on here guessing and forget all about the rest of your interview.
Yeah. When you see who it is, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's who."
There you go. But I have to let you know that Katie Bowman just said she's on vacation. She is on vacation watching this, and she said she needs some of your fragrances with all these notes because everything down here is so boring because they're all note wonders.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go actually here because you've actually got like some one note wonders. Some
I do.
coming out.
I
so
do. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of the one note wonders, except mine are intentional. At least, I won't tell you it's a full fragrance and then give you just a single note. But yeah, I introduced this new idea. So, one of the things that I think is incredible, and you even mentioned it just a moment ago with Muses about how that's your layering fragrance, and I think, more often than not, nowadays, I hear people talking about layering almost as if it's just the way you wear fragrance. You know what I mean? Like some people don't wear fragrance without layering. That's just how it is. They're always going to layer something in the morning. They almost rarely ever spray just that one thing on.
You know why, right? You know the real reason, right?
Why is that?
Because we got 400 bottles. I got to do something with them.
Yeah, you got to use them somehow. Yeah, that's right. Just start spraying everything.
This smell good. Here I come.
Yeah. I got to make a dent. Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. But, one of the things that I think happens with layering, people are really good at it. And I hear people talking about like giving each other tips on layering. One of the things I think has got to be, difficult about that is you can never predict how all of the notes are going to layer together. Like you have two full fragrances, you layer them together, and it's likely going to smell the way that you like it for just part of the wear, not the entire time, because, fragrances shift. I mean, they're dry, they go through the dry down and everything else. So just because they layer really well, in hour one doesn't mean by the time you get to hour 4, they're still layered very well. It could be conflicting notes by the time you get to a certain
point. It doesn't matter because then I just throw something else on top of that anyway.
There you go. Just keep layering.
Yeah, just keep layering.
Just keep layering. So with that, I just kind of like had the idea that it would be much easier to layer fragrances if you were working with just a single note. If what you're after is you want to add specific things to your fragrance, it's much easier to do that with single notes than it is with a full on fragrance.
Hmm.
So I came up with this idea of the primers, and it's not really a new idea because of course we have certain things like molecule one or things like that that are already kind of in that realm of they're meant to be enhancers or to be layered in some kind of way. But I you just don't see like the amount of options, for different layering combinations. I mean, you may have ISO-E super, you may have Ambroxan, those kind of basic like molecule type things. But it's not all that, flexible. Like if you just want a raspberry, you want a mango, you want it whatever, that's not really all that available to you. So what I'm doing is because it's pretty simple thing to offer since I have, everything here at my disposal is just to provide, a single accord spray, not, of course, it's not priced the same as a full fragrance. It's meant to just be an enhancer. But each one of these is an individual note or an individual accord, and it's meant to be simple enough to where you can predict what it's going to do to your fragrance. It's not such a wild card of, spraying two full fragrances together to see how they match up. But this is a little bit more safe in the sense that if you want one individual note more rather than the entire list of another fragrance. So I have now over 160 options, and I'm actually I have
Sir,
that's only half of
sir,
what I have to offer. I
sir,
just haven't had a chance to put them
sir,
on. Yeah,
sir,
molecule 160.
sir.
I
So,
think that
like,
might be
sir?
the new high
So, like, what
score
am I
as
supposed to
far
do?
as
Just be like, all right, I need, because now I sound like I'm making my own perfume. But like, send me some rose accord. Maybe I
Yeah,
should give me some saffron champagne
yeah,
patchouli from you and
yeah.
just have at it.
Exactly. And that's actually, when I first thought about this, I was really kind of focused on people just spraying this over their already full fragrance.
Hmm.
But what's happened, which I think is really cool, is people have been buying these things like maybe a dozen of them, which I thought was like, whoa, people are buying like a dozen, primers. But they're buying them so that they can layer the full fragrance on. Like, they're not layering over a fragrance. They're spraying each note, to build up to a full fragrance, which is actually really, a cool thing to be able to do, to just grab notes and kind of put on what you layer up what you want for the day. So, I've been putting out these like articles of different recommendations of like spray routines where you could get like certain profiles or certain, scents using, certain recommended sprays of different ones. So, it's kind of built up. I see people are now sharing with each other, their spray routines of how to make, certain, they're giving them names and stuff. Like, I call this whatever, just call it a name, and it's like, two sprays of this, three sprays of that, whatever. They just kind of build it up.
Now
But
we got
it's
perfume recipes, y'all. We got
yeah,
perfume
exactly. It's
recipes. We
took
sharing
on,
perfume recipes. That's what
yeah,
we're doing now. And
it's
there's
taken on a
perfume,
whole
like,
new life. Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm
well,
it's
curious
more.
as
I like, I have a motto in life. If you're going to do anything, do the most. So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
with that, is there a way to manipulate the dry times of the different ones? So let's say you
yeah.
had strawberry raspberry, and if you sprayed them on the same time, they would dry equally the same, or could you make it so that the raspberry dries slower than the strawberry, so the strawberry fades first? Can you do that with the composition of the fragrance by
You can.
adding?
Yeah, you can. So it's tricky when it comes to longevity. So the way that fragrances are balanced out, we already know about the longevity. I mean, that's kind of obvious how long something lasts. But the other part of it is the impact. So when you make a perfume of any kind, you have to balance these things out for each individual note. So when I say impact, this is not really a term that a lot of like just collectors are familiar with, but it's one of the more important aspects for perfumers to know. And what impact is, it's kind of similar to strength, but think about it in terms of speed rather than strength as far as power. It's the speed that it takes from the time it's released into the air to hit your nose, like the speed that it's detectable to your nose. So every note has its own impact. Some are drastically, higher than others. Some are really low, some are really high. And when you blend a perfume, you have to work with those impact levels to bring them closer in balance. So if you have one that, and they're on a scale like usually like 0 to 1,000 or something like that. But let's say you're working with something that's like 100, on the scale it's 100 impact, and then you have something else that's 1,000 impact. It's so much, it hits your nose so much harder and stronger at 1,000 that the 100 thing won't be detectable anymore. So what we do as perfumers is we through like dilution, by diluting in different ways, we bring the impact level closer to each other so that they're not so far apart, and then they balance out. But when you do that, sometimes you have to lose a little longevity to get it to bring that balance down. You know what I mean? So like something's really strong that lasts for a long time, you may have to dilute it down to such a point that it'll lose a little bit of that, just so it doesn't overpower the other notes. So it's a little bit tricky when it comes to longevity, but what I say is when you want longevity, want to enhance your fragrance with longevity, you can use like our, and I label them differently on the website. So I have primers and I have enhancers. Primers are meant for adding a note. Enhancers are meant for enhancing performance. So if you use something like White Musk or something like ISO Super or Ambroxan or Amber Extreme or any of those types of things, you're going to get a longer, a longer life out of the fragrance. It's going to prolong the longevity. It's going to give like a binder, like a fixative type thing to keep it on your skin longer and keep it from evaporating as fast. So for that, you're going to want to use those types of notes, but just kind of like working with blueberry and raspberry or different things like that, it's a little bit difficult to do it when you're spraying it at the same time, because they're neither one of them is really going to like prolong the life of the other one. They're both going to kind of fade out as they do. So you need like these types of things like White Musk or something on the base to really hold it together.
So it's
Okay.
basically like oils. Like that's what like black people do with the oils, and have always done
Yeah,
with the oils. Like
yeah,
the
like
like in
giving,
the that's what we've always
yeah.
done.
And
So
you're really dealing with evaporation. I mean, that's what it is. So like, everything evaporates at different rates. And, the top notes, they evaporate much faster and they hit, they dissipate much faster because they evaporate much faster. So when you do something to kind of weigh it down, put some oil or something that kind of makes it heavier where it doesn't evaporate as fast, you're going to get better longevity. Now, it may not project as much because you're weighing it down a little bit,
mhm.
but, again, like projection and longevity kind of work against each other because, the more something projects, that means it's evaporating faster. It's evaporating at a faster rate, so it's going off into the air faster. But that means that it's not going to last as long because it's evaporating faster. So, it's a
So for
balance.
those of you out there who are not chemists, right? I am going to give you a real life example that we all know as to how we got to worry about the absorption rates. So remember when you used to get drunk when you was like a teenager and you first started drinking in college, and they told you, beer for liquor, what is it, beer before liquor make you sicker or whatever it is. I
Yeah.
don't know because they call me the big dog because I drink everything all at once. But because I drink everything all at once, I never had a hangover because gin metabolizes at a different rate than tequila, metabolizes at a different rate than bourbon. So
Yeah.
people were like, "Oh my God, how you drink all that?" Because I was actually never hungover because it was always metabolizing. Then you wake up and you drink some more and then you're good to go. So that is basically what he's telling you because perfume is alcohol. So we need to think about being drunk in college. That's what
Yeah.
you kind of need to think about
Don't drink your
putting your
perfume.
fragrances together. That's the first thing.
Yeah. Don't
Um,
drink
So
and layer at the same time. Layer responsibly.
I'm very curious about this. So before we move off on the impact, I guess maybe a more a clearer, more refined question to that effect is, can you manipulate these so that you can give me a leather at impact 500 and a leather at impact 1000 and a strawberry at 500 and a strawberry at 1000? So one day I can spray the a 1000 with a 500 and one burns off faster, so that I'm left with a mid and a base note of one, and then the next day I can switch them and it's kind of in reverse.
Yeah.
Is that possible in fragrance?
Well, the limitation is going up. So going down is always possible. You can weaken something with with dilution, but making it stronger, that requires you adding other components to it,
Hmm.
and it's a limited thing. You can't necessarily take something that's 100 and make the impact 1,000, because in order to do that, you would have to add something
To enhance
that
it.
yeah, you would actually need something that's higher than 1,000 that you could add into it that would then ultimately come down to 1,000 because it's at 100. So it'll bring it down a little bit, but it's not. There's a lot of limitations with going up, and that's why not every perfume, not every fragrance is it possible to have good longevity. Unfortunately, I mean, I think most perfumers would like to offer fragrances that have good performance, and but with certain DNAs, with certain note breakdowns, it's just not possible to get any more out of it than what it is. So it's like the trade-off is, do you want this profile? If you want this profile, then you have to sacrifice the longevity. And that's what happens sometimes when you get like a weaker fragrance. The perfumer says, well, the profile, I want this profile. There's really no way to enhance it any further than that to make it last any longer. So you could do, a lot of people assume, well, why don't you just make it a higher concentration oil? That should do it, right? And in a way, that kind of works. It does help with the longevity, but longevity and impact work against each other. So when you prolong the longevity, then your impact level goes down because you have to, you know, put some milder things in there to get it to last longer. So you're not going to have the same profile anymore. So it's a trade off. Like, you get something that you
Sure.
love, it lasts 2 hours, and you're like, well, I need it to last 6 hours. So then now I have to add some more stuff to it. It's not going to be exactly the same. You're going to have to, you know, to sacrifice something to get that longevity, and that's really what perfuming is.
So I'm glad you brought that up. That's I've been trying to sneak in here to ask my question, but you just led me into it. So what is the oil concentration then of the primers?
Yeah, so most of the primers are 10%. Some of them are more, some of them are less. They all say under the description what they are.
Okay.
The reason why more or less is because that to get it into that same realm, like the primers to be kind of the same spectrum of strength. That you're not getting one that's just like whoa, and then the other one is like really light. Try to get them down balanced, but because every material has its own strength, its own impact. Some of them have to be diluted more or less, but in general, most of them are 10%. 10% is kind of a good safe dilution range where because it's a eau de toilette kind of thing,
Mhm.
you can, you're not going to overpower an EDP or an extrait. You're just going to add something onto it. You're not going to overpower anything really with that concentration. It's just going to add to it. That's really what the goal is. But some of it, like the Amber Extreme, which is actually one of the strongest primers in the list, is only 1%. But that material is so strong. Anything more than
Mhm.
1%, and you're not going to be
Mhm.
able to sit in a room with it. It's just really impactful. So, yeah, I mean, it just depends really on the material, but 10% is kind of the average.
Okay. So moving on to
Well,
your gourmands now,
well,
because we
wait,
had
wait, because we got all these just comments here, or that are all about. People are fascinated about these single notes here. But I have to shout out Donna Lee because this one is significant. I thought it was interesting. She wants to know, do you sell them as a discovery set? Because she'd like to put together a group of just the single note options.
I
Yeah.
actually I actually have the link that I'm trying to get in, and I will put it up. But there are a million discovery sets He's got like 1 through 7, and
Yeah.
they're like,
And we're still adding.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
like $45. I think there's what, 5 or 6 in a set.
Yeah, 10%.
Oh, geez,
Yeah.
yeah. So Donna, and for everybody else, I put the website up before, but I'll go ahead and get it. But I will literally go right to the page. He's got them separated by like top primers, bestsellers, but then he's got each discovery set, and they're like labeled.
Yeah.
So
So that's
And
fabulous. So that's
yep.
one. They want to congratulate you because apparently it is the Houston bestseller, and they are like off the chain down there
Yeah.
and fighting over them. And Michelle Brinkman, she just wants us to know that she's very important because she has already tested the Houston fragrance, and
Yep.
White Musk has become her new signature as her base for everything.
Yeah. Michelle is great. Hey, Michelle. Yeah, she's really involved with the community here and also online. She's involved quite a bit. I'm sure most of y'all know Michelle, but she's great. She's such a wonderful person.
And now, the moment everybody's been waiting for. Let's introduce it, Jess. That's on you now, because this is your area, not mine.
well, so yeah, can we please talk about the gourmands because they're
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm most known for gourmands. It was never my intention to be a gourmand person, by the way. I've I've heard people refer to me as a gourmand house, which is not really the truth or what I'm trying to do, but I think most people know me for my gourmand just the way that it happens to be. So I won't fight it. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. So which one is your favorite?
Oh my goodness. As far as me, like I have found that I don't wear gourmands a ton anymore, but I will tell you as far as what you have, they are so, and I know that to even use the word photorealistic when it comes to perfume is probably crazy, but they are so realistic. Like the brownie is literally brownie. The
Hmm.
banana bread I love. Like if I
Thank
was to
you.
wear one of them, I would wear the banana bread more, even though Danielle would not want to stand next to me. Um, but yes, the caramel also is
Thank you.
really, really one that I very much enjoy. And
Yeah.
Justin's got the other ones in front of him, so I can't even say on the top of my head which they are. But
I've
Yeah.
I've got the brownie.
Hmm.
And my cousin actually, when we were in Baltimore last weekend, my cousin smelled through your set, and she said it was too realistic.
Yeah.
It was,
I've
I
gotten
mean,
that before.
yeah.
It made
She
her
said
angry.
it was too realistic. She's like, it smells too I said, I don't know if I want to smell like this all day. It's too
Yeah.
much like food. I
Yeah.
said, you would be surprised how many people out there want to
Oh
smell
yeah.
exactly like this all day.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually
Personally,
won
I
an
think
award
y'all need
for
to make
brownie
Ode
points.
Bacon.
Oh
oh
yeah, Oda Bacon.
no.
Salt
Can
and
you
civet.
imagine
Yeah. Salty
Ode
bacon.
Bacon? I'm trying to tell you. You want to smell like food?
Maple.
That's the food I want. That's the
Yeah.
food that'll get y'all a man, ladies. Like, I don't care what they
Yeah.
talking about. You want a man? Put some bacon grease behind your ear.
Maple
He'll
Do you
and
never leave
guys
you
bacon.
alone.
remember about 20 years ago, Burger King had that body spray that smelled like Whoppers?
Oh yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's no wonder it's not around anymore. Yeah.
I
Well,
wish
there you go.
we should have kept our bottles.
Yeah, really. It's probably worth something now.
So
Vintage.
I'm really not a gourmand girly. I appreciate them, but it's like not my preferred note. But
Yeah.
for me, I really, I was really off on the cafe beignet
Yeah.
because I'm a coffee girl.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely a coffee girl, and um, and I'm an oud girl.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so there was the mildness of the civet, okay? It's like, that I loved. Like,
Yeah.
it reminded me of the finest coffee, the super rich, like,
Yeah.
I felt like the chicory.
Yeah, yeah, and
I
that's
felt
really
like
what
it
I
was like
used the oud for. Like, I didn't want it to be an oud fragrance. I almost was reluctant to put oud in the note breakdown because some people just won't even try it if they hear
Mhm.
oud. But it really was just to give it kind of that richness and, something a little bit more depth. So it's very light and very clean. It's not, you're not going to get like a barnyard oud
No,
out
not
of
at all.
it. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I really that one to me is like kind of like when I really feel homesick. for sure Cafe Beignet does it for me because that smell, the coffees and stuff is like pretty much an every morning thing in New Orleans that maybe not from Cafe Du Monde, but from one of the, New Orleans coffee shops. It's like chicory type coffee. So we don't have any of those coffee shops near me now. I'm a Starbucks guy, I guess, all of a sudden. But the coffee in New Orleans is pretty unique.
Was
Now,
brisket a
Have you
note
watched
for
these out by
Houston?
you?
I'm sorry,
I'm
what'd you
sorry,
say?
So
Was brisket a note for Houston?
brisket. It should be, yeah. Just maybe there's some smoked brisket, a little barbecue sauce.
You can have a note that's meat sweats.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, meat sweats.
Hez,
In Houston, it's just sweats all around. So
Hez, have you ever been to the Egg House out there?
no, I don't think so. No.
Okay, well, I say you should go.
Yeah.
And they have the most fantastic kolaches out there
Oh, okay.
that are like so crazy over the top luxurious, but they have the most amazing coffee. And so
Oh, yeah.
maybe, not that I'm from Houston, but I spent a lot of time there. You
Yeah.
might want to just go check it out, maybe get some
Yeah.
inspiration, and maybe you might feel like, oh yeah, this isn't Starbucks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's, they have like some of the best like bakery and coffee that I
Oh,
ever had
yeah.
when I was in
I'll have
Houston.
to check it out.
I
Yeah.
go to the one in the Heights. So if it's still
Oh,
there,
okay. Yeah, I'm sure it is.
So we're
Yeah.
recognizing that, it's New Orleans inspired or centered, right? Basically, it's
Hmm.
kind of the sense of your childhood, even or the sense of your becoming,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and my question for you is, do you kind of categorize the fragrances into phases of your life? Like this
Oh.
is, my childhood, or this is, these were my party years or my young adult years, or these were my family man years, or is it that kind of like maturation in your fragrance line?
I wouldn't say so much now, although, there are some things that are inspired by very specific points in my life. I lost my mother, years ago. So the banana bread banshee is kind of like a callback to my childhood, really, because that's really the memories that I have of it. I mean, in my older years, I never had the opportunity, unfortunately, to have that from my mother. But the other stuff is really kind of more like from my adulthood in a sense that just out of the homesickness of not being in New Orleans, it's like the things that I would normally be involved with are not available to me anymore. And those are the things that I really kind of target in. So I wouldn't say that it's like, this one, other than banana bread, this one is particularly from my childhood, this one's from my adult years. It's more like just an all encompassing, this is what I miss about the city and about the culture that I mean, I still have here within my house, and luckily in Houston, we do actually have a lot of New Orleans influence.
Hmm.
Houston is like the city that everyone in New Orleans runs to when something's
Hmm.
wrong.
Well, I
Hurricane's
mean,
coming,
that's
go
where
to
everybody
Houston.
vacated to after Katrina. That's where
Yeah,
everybody went.
exactly.
So,
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's like Houston is the safe haven for people from New Orleans. It's really the most welcoming city and the easiest city to get to when you need to evacuate. So there's a lot of people from New Orleans here, and there's a lot of New Orleans influence. Um, but just being in New Orleans and, it's just not the same not being there. So some of these things are more, just from homesickness, the things that I would normally be involved with that I don't have access to anymore. Yeah. But the Houston fragrance will be different because this is really kind of the first fragrance that I'm doing, that has nothing to do with being homesick. This is more of an embrace of the new
where
city
you
that,
are now.
yeah, exactly. And it's also something that, like, my whole story about perfuming, doing it originally as a therapy and then kind of, doing it, this brand based off of being homesick. It's all very kind of personal and, in my own head type thing. This is really a fragrance where I get, this is a community effort. It's based off of, what we have right now, not something that we lost in the past or anything like that. So, it's just a different energy and a different vibe. I'm really excited about it because this will kind of be a breakaway from my routine or what I usually make, you know. So yeah, I think it's great.
Well, they're letting us
Anything that
know that
allows you to
apparently
stretch
my
that
fave is up.
creativity.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was just commenting. I mean, that's thinking outside the box, and stretching the limits of what you have implemented as your bounds, often leads to great breakthroughs. So
Yeah.
you could find that through this, it affects perfumery for you in the future,
Yeah.
just by letting go and releasing all those creative juices in a way that you've never done before, and allowing you to experience something that you never have.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's an opportunity to push myself technically, and it's also an opportunity to push myself outside of, my past and my history and kind of the bubble that I've been in, with my brand, and start to, show a little bit more about myself that isn't necessarily represented currently. So I think it's great. Yeah.
Is this
So
a
what,
full-time endeavor for you now?
I actually have three jobs. So yeah,
hey,
Okay, Jeff.
yeah. So I still have my more than full-time job. I work, with the oil, gas, and chemical industry. I've been involved with that for over 20 years. I'm still doing that full time. It's a global position, so I'm all hours of the day, dealing with things. And then, I'm working now with these other houses. That I consider that as a separate function. And then I have, Hez Parfums as my
So
other
are you
thing.
sleeping? Because Jarian doesn't sleep with all his jobs.
No, I
Are
don't
you
sleep
sleeping?
much. Yeah, I don't sleep much. No, if you really, that's the thing. And I know, a lot of people approach me, and, you know, I love when people come and they're enthusiastic. They want to, release a fragrance. They want to start a brand. I just, and I don't want to discourage anyone from ever doing that. But, I just want to be, real about it, that in order to do that, you really have to put it all out there. You have to sacrifice all of the times that you want to buy that bottle that, everybody's getting. I see bottles that I want to buy all the time, and I just
You
have to
gotta buy
acknowledge,
juice.
yeah, I don't even buy that because it's like, if I want to grow, I basically have to put it all into this,
No, that's what I
so
mean. You
like,
gotta buy juice. You
yeah,
gotta buy ingredients. You can't buy
yeah,
that. You gotta, yeah. I get it. I
exactly.
get it.
So like,
That's okay.
if
We'll
you,
tell you about it.
yeah, exactly. And I have a lot of friends that give me like decants and stuff like that. So I still get to enjoy things. And to be completely fair, I can't really wear a lot of fragrances on a daily basis anymore anyways. Like I almost barely ever wear a fragrance because it interferes with work. I can't really, test things or blend things when I'm wearing something else. So most of the time I don't wear stuff. Um, it's sad, but that's the trade. I mean, that's how it is. You kind of have to sacrifice one thing that you love to pursue the other part of it, and that's what I've done. So, it's a lot of fun and it's really fulfilling, and I get to be really creative. But, I had to kind of stop, focusing on other aspects of the hobby that I did enjoy previously. So it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do to make it work. And that's what I'm doing.
What is your favorite fragrance in the line?
In my line, well, right now it's Jackson Square. Jackson Square is kind of like me. Like if there was one fragrance that I would say like represents me, like, personality wise and everything else, it's artistic. It pushes boundaries. It really is kind of just a reflection of my personality. So Jackson Square is number one. I also have a fragrance called 504, which hasn't been fully discontinued, but we haven't gotten the new packaging for it yet. So it's out. It's off the website right now. It will be returned, but it's an oud fragrance,
Yeah,
and that's
actually,
another one.
that's a couple of people's favorites. They said make sure
Yeah,
you ask about 504.
yeah. So that's another one that I would say is another one that really kind of like is my style, and because I make a lot of these fragrance like gourmands and stuff like that. They're I truly enjoy making them and wearing them for the scent memory. That's really what those types of fragrances are for, to bring me to a place, to remind me of something, to make me feel a certain way, comforted or whatever. But it's not going to be like an everyday wear. I'm not going to wear Banana Bread Banshee every day to the office or anything like that. You know what I mean? So unless I,
Oh, it's the banana guy again.
yeah, that's right. Here comes Banana Man. So, anyways, like Jackson Square is something that, if I did have a signature scent, which I don't, but if I were to wear something like on a regular basis, it would probably be that.
Well,
Well,
tell
Jerry,
me about.
he wants
Go ahead.
504.
Go ahead.
So yeah, Jerry wants 504, and he also said that people don't know how much it takes to get their fragrances out there. So, got to
Yeah.
save some 504 for Jerry.
Oh yeah.
Them. But yeah, it's everyone is looking. They don't want
They don't want what?
well, apparently there's been some comments about the different notes when we were talking about primers and such. And so someone mentioned when we were talking about bacon, Stacy has a bacon fragrance and had that. And then someone said, please no pickles. And then I said, well, we have a pickle. And so there's lots of things.
Yes. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, there's many pickle fragrances.
Yeah. What's wrong with pickles?
I don't know. There's lots of people that like them, and who knows?
Yeah.
All them pregnant people that have,
Exactly. I mean, a dill. You got it. Maybe there's some sweet. What is it? Jerkins? Is that what it's called? Gherkins. Gherkins, whatever they're called. Yeah, you got the half sour pickles. You could have like a whole line, like all these flankers.
So what happened to the Big Easy Tropical?
Big Easy Tropical was discontinued early last year. Yeah, I haven't brought that one back. I'm thinking about bringing it back, but I might change it a little bit. So the thing with Big Easy Tropical is it was a little bit divisive because I didn't want to, like, my goal almost always is to do something unique. I mean, I know like Blue Dog, it's a little bit more mass appealing, and Muses, my wife's fragrance, a little bit more mass appealing. But I don't really, I like to make things that try to push the boundary a little bit. And with that fragrance, what I did was I used leather in it, so it was a tropical fragrance, but it had a leather accord in it.
Well, that's what I
And
wanted
to
to ask
me,
you about it.
yeah, to me that was like, this is going to be unique. This is going to be great, and I actually really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was great, and some people really liked it, but other people got that leather and was like, oh no, no tropical
Clearly,
leather,
they've never
forget.
been to Cuba.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly, they don't know anything about Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So I kept it around, but it wasn't really like one of my best sellers. And eventually I just took it off the line. It just wasn't doing very well. But yeah, I've had a
How
lot
many
of requests to
fragrances
bring
are
it
in
back.
your? How many fragrances are active in your line right now?
Right now
Not
we
the
have
167 million
yeah, yeah,
2048 primers.
That's
yeah.
cheating.
Forget about the primers. Yeah, if I use the primers, that is good cheating actually. Yeah, I've released over 180 fragrances already. No, it's so altogether I've released 30 actual fragrances and I've stripped it back down to now we have well, of course we have Jungle Juice and Hurricane limited time, but there's 12 that are officially part of the line without the Hurricane and the Jungle Juice.
He's
So
only
Hurricane,
getting 2 bottles, less than 5 of the Jungle Juice. So if
yeah,
you want it,
yeah,
get it.
Jungle Juice is almost gone. Yeah, there's only 4 left. Um, and that's, I don't know if we're going to make another batch or not. It just depends on the demand. I did it as a limited special release just because there was enough people, asking about it. But it's at the moment, it's not coming back permanently into the line. So we'll move on with new fragrances. My wife's working on a new fragrance she's about to release. It should be out next month. And then we have the Houston fragrance that we're working on. That should also be out probably next month or so.
How
So
many do you look forward to launching per year? Are we at that point with your evolution, which is we expect two,
yeah,
3, 15 launches a year? What are we doing?
yeah. I mean, I think on average, like 6 per year is enough. I probably will release more than 6, but yeah, but the thing is, I try not to really. There was a time when I first came out, started doing this. I was releasing fragrances like 3 or 4 at a time because I mean I was just all in it. I was like, oh, I made something great. Everybody needs to smell it immediately. Like you have to know what I did tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like everybody needs to know. I've gotten
I mean,
past
if
that.
nobody smells it, did you do it? I get it. I
Exactly.
get it,
That's
baby.
it. That's it. So like, I got past. I mean, that's kind of stuff you do when you're new and you don't really understand, like how people perceive things. I stripped that back and like now I may make a fragrance and just let it sit for like, half a year or more before I even think about releasing it. And it's all because, you know, you have to be strategic when you release a fragrance, or else it will just get completely overlooked and nobody will ever even know that it existed to begin with. So, like back when I used to release like 3 or 4 at a time, maybe one would get attention and then the other ones would just kind of be like, oh, I didn't realize you had that. And, you can't really go back and be like, oh, I have this one too, go and, talk about this one. Oh, you released it 6 months ago. Nobody cares now. So you have to really kind of release them in a way that, not saying that you can't release more than one, but you have to have the ability to actually, get the attention on everything that you release, or else one of them is just going to kind of go to waste and not nobody will pay attention to it. So I had that. I mean, that affected Jungle Juice was one of them where, I released it and in the beginning, nobody was buying it because I released it with a couple of other fragrances. One of them was Plum Confecture, and Plum Confecture got a bunch of attention and Jungle Juice didn't get any. And people aren't going to just go and buy the entire line when they come near. They may pick something. They're going to pick one or the other. And, Jungle Juice wasn't getting picked as much. So, yeah, now I just try to do it, one at a time, give enough time for people to get used to it, familiar with it. If they're interested in it, they can get it. And then, I give a little bit of time to start talking about the new fragrance, to get people aware of it before I actually release it, and just do things a little bit more controlled. And then with that, I also try not to release things, now that I'm working with other houses, I try to be mindful not to release things that conflict with them in scent profile or in timing. You know what I mean? Because part of, their release is the fact that I made it for them. They may want to use my name to say, oh, this is his new fragrance through our house. And if I'm releasing something new in my own house at the same time, not saying that it will conflict, but there's a chance that it will. So I try not to do that, just to be mindful of that. So
So
yeah,
tell
yeah,
me,
six a year
um,
is like kind of a good number.
what's your price point look like so the folks know?
Yeah, so like the primers right now, they're full price are 45. They're on sale still for 35 right now. Our bottles, the all of the bottles except for the Jungle Juice and Hurricane are 165 for the 50 ml. They're 45 for the 10 ml, and then they're $9 for the 2 ml samples that we have. Um, and then we have the discovery sets also. So the discovery sets, we have a bunch of different options, but like for our main line, we have the first half. So it's five samples discovery set. It's $45. And then we have another set, which is a different five. And then we have 10 altogether, which is $75. So just depends on what you want, discovery set wise. And that's for the 2 ml. You can also get a 10 ml discovery set. It's a little bit more expensive, of course. So yeah,
And
it
what's
just
the
ranges.
and you have a
What's
discovery set of the primers too? Is that
Yeah,
what I
so
understood?
Awesome.
the
I
primers,
put
the way
that in
that we
the chat
yeah,
so everybody
the
can
way
see it.
we did it was because we have so many of them, and I know, it's hard. I mean, not everybody's going to know what everything smells like. They may not want to blind buy it, whatever. So the way that I set it up was basically they're in sets of 10 each, and it just goes through like 10 at a time. So set one is primer 1 through 10. Set two is primer 11 through 20. It just goes like that. And then with that, we're about to add actually a pick your own option, because I know, out of 10, I mean, maybe you don't want all 10 of those. You may want to try something else. So we're trying to make it a little bit easy for people, where you don't have to necessarily buy multiple sets just because there's one in this set and one in that set that you want. You can kind of just, customize it and tell us what you actually want to try. So
what sizes do the primers come in? Are those 30 mils or 10s?
50 ml and the
Okay.
2 ml samples. But yeah, all the primers are just in these, 50 ml bottles, pressurized atomizer. And, they come in the Hez Parfums box. I don't have one here for the primers, but they're very similar to these boxes. I mean, the same type of box. It's just a different design on the front.
So,
Yeah,
And
beautiful design on that Fantasia box, by the way. I mean,
yeah,
Oh,
it's
thank you. Yeah, so this one is also not a New Orleans fragrance. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, like
yes,
what
I
the
have it. I like it.
yeah. Yeah, so this one is the only fragrance that I have where this was a collaboration with a South American recording artist. Her name is Daniela Milagros. She's an actress, she's, you know, a singer, and she's a musician. She's really talented. She actually started her career as a child. She's done work for Disney, you know, different things, but she's been, you know, very artistic and, you know, pretty well accomplished throughout her life. So now she's in her early 20s and she's doing really well with her music career. She just released a new album, and one of the songs on it is Fantasia. So she asked me, you know, she's been a fan of ours really since the beginning. Actually, I couldn't tell you how she found us because she's in Argentina, but she was, you know, a huge supporter of ours for a long time, and we didn't even realize that she had this music career or anything like that. I only knew her as a customer, and then, you know, she told me about her album, and I seen her music videos, which I hope everyone, if you get a chance to look it up on YouTube,
I'm putting it
you
in the chat now so everybody has.
yeah, yeah, you can see her music video for Fantasia. Really proud of her, and, you know, proud of the project. I think, you know, we did an incredible job. So it's really her vision, but the song, it's in Spanish, the song. So if you don't, you know, understand Spanish, you may not fully understand. You'll still enjoy the song, though. It's very catchy. But the song is about a young woman who is basically has this fantasy about this guy that, you know, the guy of her dreams. And she's doing everything to attract him, to, you know, allure him, and she has like a whole world built up in her head about what life will be like with him, and that's really what the song is about. So the fragrance is meant to be fun, seductive, you know, playful, and kind of represents, like, you know, that flirtatiousness that comes from the song. So yeah,
And that
very
is
proud
the
of it.
one that we have samples of that will go out to people.
Yeah. So for people that have received our orders lately, you have been getting all sorts of new house samples. These new packages will also go out with this Fantasia, so you guys can sample some of Hez's work. And then I put his website in the chat so everybody can grab that. And Hez is going to give away some prizes. I'll let you tell, or yeah, I'll let you tell.
We love
Yeah,
prizes. We love
yeah.
prizes. I'm gonna tell you
So
though, I'm back to when it sucks being an admin. But go ahead.
yeah. So yeah, I wanted to get, I know that, you know, you're giving out the Fantasia samples, you know, with the orders, but I wanted to do like a full discovery set giveaway to somebody, and you know, I'll allow you guys, because you probably have a method that you do giveaways. I'm not sure how you
So
normally
what
do
happens? Because clearly you're not paying attention, sir.
it.
So what's going to happen is we leave it for about 7 days because we got to give because we like to make sure that the algorithm has reached everybody in the group. Everybody can't be available from 8 to 10 on Monday.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because again, we got folks who are on the West Coast, the East Coast, and we got folks who are like traveling, like Katie Bowman right now. So we
yeah.
leave it up. And then based on your watching, well, my watching, because I go back and rewatch, and then we come up with 5 random questions and a trick question. Basically, it's always 6, and they get to answer directly to me. I tell them how many points they got, and then we spin a wheel. It's
Oh,
very
okay. Yeah,
and
no,
it'll
that's
be
great.
live. So we like to always let the perfumer know when it's going to go live, so you'll actually see it, and then we work from there. And then Jess and Justin, they're responsible for getting the prizes out. So all I
Oh,
do
okay.
is answers and spin the wheel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
And so we also like them to share and like and follow all of your socials. So
oh yeah,
I will put all of those things up so that they can go ahead and go to your page and like and share and follow, because our goal is not only to just learn about you and your brand, but we want to help your brand grow, and
yeah,
how can we support you the best. And we know sometimes it's just engagement, and
yeah,
outside of the fragrance, you want to connect with your fans too. So
yeah. No,
it's
it's really great.
all
It's
those
fantastic.
different facets we're
We
trying
want
to
to
work
be
for
Hez
you.
Parfums ambassadors. This is our goal.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, I think you know, that's really the main thing. You know, for my size, and you can see, I, you know, I work from home, and I, you know, I'm not I don't have a bunch of investors, part of my organization or anything like that. Just, me and my wife are just kind of operating this. So we really do rely heavily on word of mouth, good reviews, recommendations from people. That's really the life, force behind our brand. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have any business. So I really appreciate that a lot. It means a lot to me.
Are you currently in any retail brick and mortars that if people are traveling, they can
Not yet.
stop
I've been,
in?
it's been a goal of mine and something I've been, pursuing and trying to make those contacts, but I unfortunately haven't had the connection yet. So
Well,
we're
we will
working on it.
Doesn't
definitely
mean
let
it's not coming.
everybody know when you
Doesn't mean
do.
it's
Yeah.
not coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. It doesn't mean, I know it's coming. It's just a matter of time. And I know with boutiques, like they have to come up with a plan for the year. They don't just like, randomly somebody hits them up and says, I have a new line, and they're like, okay, send it to me. Like every year they know what brands they're going to bring on
We're
board. And
learning so
yeah,
much about product placement, what the budget looks like, how the brands
hmm
have to work together and make sense.
Yeah.
We hear from Nero all the time. I want to bring everything in. I don't have enough room. Like, he
exactly.
loves fragrance and he's like, I like this. I don't have
Yeah.
enough room. So what can I take out that's at that price point that has that base it's
Yeah.
very interesting. And we're actually
Yeah.
going to talk about the marketing on the boutique side. We've got
hmm
I forgot the young lady down in New Orleans.
Oh,
Who I forgot her name at the Marie Alcan.
oh yeah. Yeah. No, I'm actually doing something with them coming up. Not in their boutique, but just something online. But yeah,
But
I do
like
talk to them.
that's
They're
an example
very
is that
nice.
she's
Yeah.
revamping her entire boutique and what she's
Yeah.
carrying. So it's very interesting to
Yeah.
learn that
Oh,
side of the business.
yeah. Yeah. They're
Um,
great. Yeah. That's a great boutique, by the way. If anyone goes to New Orleans, you want to check out a really nice boutique, that's the place
We'll
to
be
go.
interviewing her as well, and she's a friend
Yeah.
in our group. When I was in New Orleans, I traced
Yeah.
over there on a
Oh,
recommendation of one of our group members, and so it's a
Yeah.
lovely boutique, and I
oh
can't wait to
yeah.
go back
People
and
are
see
really
what the
nice.
goals are to change it.
Yeah.
She's making
Oh
change.
yeah. Yeah. She's fantastic. Yeah. I like her a lot.
I'm just looking to see whether or not there are any other questions that were sitting out there, and are there any questions you have from us? Like I said, it's going to be a working relationship here, Ez.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I mean my main thing I just want to say is just how much I appreciate you guys and also the whole group. Um, I'm not you may not have seen me that off, prior to this year involved with Facebook as much. My in my previous life before, having a brand and everything, I wasn't really that big in social media. I'm just kind of like more of a quiet person, to myself. So it was, it's an adjustment getting involved, but the the support that I get from the Facebook groups, from this group, from the Houston local group that we discussed, and many others, is
Oh no,
really
I
like,
see it. I'm
yeah,
always so proud.
yeah, it's just incredible. I mean, I think this one of the most rewarding aspects of this is the community that's built, and most of that is the interactions through Facebook. Just because everybody's there and it's so easy to discuss with people. So, I mean, I'm glad that people are starting to get familiar with me. I'm glad that I'm able to interact with people. I'm just really appreciative for, you guys, this group, and the other groups that have accepted me in. Uh, I could be a little bit quirky sometimes. I like to joke around a lot, but it's just really a lot of love and appreciation, and I'm so grateful for it. So, yeah, thank you.
someone had a birthday this week, and so we hope you felt all the birthday love, and
I did.
we really have so many wishes for you and cannot wait to see
Thank
where
you.
everything goes. And we hope that you
Yeah.
are celebrating for the entire month. We
Oh
did
yeah.
10
Yeah.
days Danielle, so we can easily do 10 days ahead. So
Yeah. Yep.
How you talking about Danielle still celebrating? And with that, and with that, we are going to say goodbye.
good night,
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Thank you.